Hey guys, it's Rogowy here, and today we are doing part 2 of the color correction tutorial. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm calling this face swap. It's something I'm sure you've seen before. I'll show you a few examples of what we're trying to achieve here. These are embarrassing for me, but whatever. I'll show you what we're going for. What we're looking for is an image that we are trying to match. I'll show you what I mean. Here's an image of the late Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg. And what I've done here is I have put my face into Snoop's face. Now, how did I do this? I added a layer mask. I'm going to talk about exactly how to do this. But you can see that there I am, big loser, in my basement, trying to match the same sort of light that I saw in the original, as far as the flash in the eyes and the direction of the light, so that at least somewhat the effect looks realistic. All right, now you have probably seen a bunch of these celebrity type face swaps where people put their faces on other people. I'm simply showing you a technique that you can use. You can use it in your own photos. You never know where this might become useful. More importantly, we're looking at color correction, and we're looking at studying the direction of light as well. All right, so let's get started. Now, before we get started, I want to say very, very importantly that the images that I'm using, again, strictly for educational purposes only. I take no credit for the photos, so keep that in mind. So let's get started. We're going to open up the Wednesday tutorial folder, and in there you're going to see a bunch of different people. We got Bieber, Body, Michael Jackson, Taylor. We're going to open up Body, and there we have the very lovely Alyssa Milano, and she looks like a good candidate to get her face swapped today. I don't know. But we're going to go with this as our body. Now, I'm going to create a very disturbing image here with Michael Jackson, and we're going to drag him to Photoshop. And there we go. Now, we end up with 2 tabs. I'm going to press Command-0 so I can get that full screen. And they do bear a very weird resemblance in these particular photos. The lighting is kind of similar. Even their faces are kind of similar. It's kind of scary, actually. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to change to the rectangular marquee tool, second one down, and we're going to draw a selection around the face, or around the face area, just like that. Then we're going to take our move tool, and we are going to drag Michael Jackson's face into this one. All right, so he has been added on a separate layer. I'm going to call this Mike's head. And this one will be called Body. It doesn't really matter, but I just like naming my layers. Go to Mike's head, press Command-T, and remember to hold Shift as you scale it down. Let's go about that much, just so it's not so huge. Now, what I like to do is add a, not add, we're going to take this opacity down to 50%. And what that's going to do is going to give us a semi-transparent Michael Jackson head. And what we can do is, the most important is to line up the eyes first. You can see that his eyes don't quite line up, so we have to press Command-T again. We're going to shrink his head down a little more till we get those eyes about lined up. And we can see that I might need to add a little bit of a rotation to his head just to get that lined up. Now I start to look at other things. I start to check to see if the chin lines up. And I don't like to stretch an image, but I do just a tiny little bit. Stretch that out a little bit. And it's looking pretty good. Well, it's looking as good as it can look with Michael Jackson on a chick's body. And then we're going to hit return, and it will save our settings. All right. So you should see, let me just zoom in so you can see closer. His eyes lined up with her eyes, his chin lined up with her chin, and everything else should just kind of fall in place nicely here. Now again, some people have weird shaped heads. You know, you might get somebody who has a face that's much longer than the person that you're working with, or much shorter. So you have to kind of get creative, and you have to, you know, erase parts that shouldn't be there. Fortunately, their faces are actually very similar. His jaw, as we can see, is much, much wider. So let's bring up the opacity again. And there he is in all of his glory. And we're going to click that. And now we're going to add a layer mask. So click that. Go to your paintbrush. Whoa, I'm still on brushes from a long time ago. I'm going to switch to a soft brush. Make sure the hardness is anywhere from 0 to 25. I'm going to go 0. And I'm going to reduce my brush size. Remember the shortcut with the brackets. And I'm going to start painting. Now remember, make sure your color is black so that you're hiding. And we're just going to go until we touch the edge of his hair. All right, that's all I'm doing. I'm just going around his head till we touch the edge of his hair. Just like that. Now when we get to the neck, be careful there. Right, you don't want to take off too much, because then it'll be really noticeable that it's fake. So in the case with the neck, I probably went too much. I'm going to go back a little bit here. When you get to the neck, you might want to go to a harder brush, maybe about 50%. Just so you're not cutting into the her face too much. So let's just leave the neck intact as much as possible, just like that. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Now I'm going to go and just erase a little bit of the hair that looks weird. I want to bring back some of her hair into his. Just like that. All right. Perfect. Well, kind of. Just erase like that. All right, there we go. Now we have Michael Jackson's head on top of her face. And the lineup should be pretty good. I'm actually going to go in and we'll see how this looks. If it looks really bad, I'll undo it, but I'm going to actually take the shadow from her chin on his. Something like that. Now we notice that his skin is just way too light for her body. So this is where color correction could come into play. And so we're going to go and we're going to click the left thumbnail, which is the original picture of him. And we're going to go and reduce, first of all, we're going to reduce the brightness of his skin, just of the picture overall a bit, just like that. And I see a really weird soft line here. I'm just going to erase that a little bit. And again, it's not going to be perfect. And for the sake of the tutorial here, I'm just trying to show you how we can get it close, not perfect. All right, now we can go to Image Adjustments, Selective Color. And we can bring down the color a little bit by going to Reds and tweaking our sliders here just to see what that does. We're going to need a lot of yellow. We're going to need a lot of black to make it darker. Maybe not so much magenta. All right, now we can go to our yellows. Like that. And again, we're just tweaking it a little bit at a time here to make it match a little closer. Ooh, that looks pretty bad. Again, we can go to Image Adjustments. We can adjust our brightness and our contrast a little bit. Maybe I would even consider going to Image Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, taking out a little bit of that saturation so it's not so intense. Not much. All right. We can also use things like the Dodge tool and the Burn tool The dodge tool is going to make areas lighter and the burn tool is going to make areas darker. So if I want to add a little bit more of a shadow under his chin here, I would go to the burn tool. Got midtones set up here. I got 50% set up here. And again, I'm going with maybe about a 50% hardness brush. I'm just going to paint along his lower jaw. And this is a weird tool, not in the sense that it operates weird. It's just you have to go over the area many times in order to get it to show anything. You'll notice that it just very slightly darkens the scene. If I go back, it's noticeable. But as I'm doing it, it just does it a tiny little bit at a time, which is good because you don't end up darkening it too much, right away, and then you're, have to undo that. So, okay, I could make a little more adjustments. Again, I'm not spending too much time on this. Selective color, maybe the whites need to have a little more magenta in there. That doesn't look like it's making much of a difference at all. All right, so we're going to try maybe the yellows, a little more magenta. All right. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect. But if you are doing your chroma key assignment and you're trying to get your skin to match, this is probably your best bet. This is the way that you're going to do it in a way that you have control over how much color is added. So let's just go back a little bit here. You can see where we were, all right, way back here to what we ended up with. It's still not pretty. Now, I don't think it'll ever be pretty, but it's much closer to what the skin that we're trying to match looks like. All right, we still got some bright areas and we got some areas that could be fixed to make it perfect. His hair kind of looks a little weird, but you get the idea. All right, if you spend the time and you make it look, really good, spend a lot of time on it, you'll usually get a very realistic result. And what I look for, okay, if I was doing these funny sort of creations, when you take your photograph, what you should look for in the original is the direction of the light. All right, so if we see this photo here, the light is pretty much bang on the person's face. This is called butterfly lighting. If that's the case, then you need to take your photo using the same lighting. All right, whether that means positioning yourself next to a window and having it match the shadows that are going across the face, or maybe going to use a light in the studio, whatever the case might be, you want to match the direction of the light so that it doesn't look, well, in this case it's going to look fake no matter what, but so that it doesn't look as fake in the final result. I'll show you I'll show you one more that I did. Again, I'm not saying that these are fantastic or anything, but here's another one of me and Bush. And you can just see how if I take away my mask, there I am again, a big loser in my basement. But I tried to match the direction of the light and the shadows coming across my face as best as I could. Again, experimentation, having a bit of fun, and adjusting your color in your image. All right, so save this. I'm going to save it as very hot man to my desktop, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, so hopefully you use some of those techniques in your own photographs. All right, if you need to make adjustments to an image and you need whatever, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to use color correction. I suggest you get a handle on how to use these functions under the adjustments menu, experiment with them, and you'll probably be pleasantly surprised that your end result will be much better once you've played around with them. Anyways, talk to you later.